Hi Emma. Um, Listen, this is last night I was stressed. Hopefully this wind isn't causing a big issue. But anyways, last night I was stressed because it's like last night, and but today I'm calm, and I was thinking before I go back to Gibraltar, I would just first say something to you. I understand that. Well, I know that. All the reasons we stopped being friends as close as we were is because as I got older I became more closed off, and I didn't tell you the truth as much. I didn't lie to you, but I just didn't tell you what was happening as much as I did when I was a child, as when we were young. And so I think maybe you felt like I was just being distant, and when I would say, oh, we're friends, you would probably thinking, I'm guessing you were thinking like, well, he never tells me what's going on anymore, so how can we still be, close friends or whatever. Anyways, long story short, I need to just sort of tell you what the fuck has happened, really. So remember I came and visited you at your house, you made tea, we drank tea, and then I was looking like a wild man. I had a big beard and everything, and then not long afterwards I tried to commit suicide, and then you called the police and wada. Anyways, what I didn't tell you at that point was you and all my other friends in Hertfordshire had been saying to me, find a job, get a job, you'll get a job, and then the social life will come, and then you'll not be as lonely, and you'll be happier, etc. Just do like what normal people do. Find a job, find a girlfriend, settle down, maybe get a place to live, and just get on with things. But what I wasn't telling everyone at the time, and I didn't tell you either, was that I had been applying for work for years, months and months and months, day after day, and at first I thought I was just unemployable. I thought I was trying to get jobs that were out of my league or whatever, and so I started like applying for the worst jobs, the porter jobs, cleaner jobs, like sweeping streets, anything. And whatever I applied for, I never ever got any job interviews. And after a long time in England, I got frustrated, and a friend of mine told me to move up to Edinburgh to live with her. And I was living in Edinburgh, and the same thing happened. I was applying, I was handing in CVs, I was going everywhere. I was applying for the worst of the worst jobs, and I was getting nothing, absolutely nothing. And after a while, I started thinking my bad luck or my unemployability was actually, I got suspicious and started thinking that I was on some form of like blacklist or something. Anyways, I did manage to do a few odd jobs in South Africa when I went back there, because you can just work with friends and family a lot of the time. But anyways, eventually after all the suicide attempts and the depression and stuff because I couldn't find a job, I eventually phoned the army and I said, you guys didn't give me any qualifications when I left, when I was coming out of the military, so give me a qualification. And I said I wanted to do sailing, and that's when I started doing the sailing. But I had to do the sailing through an army organization because it was cheaper for the army to do it through an army organization than to do it through a civilian organization. And the problem I have with anything military is that, and I think you maybe will remember, I was very, very, very keen on joining the army when we were young, when we were in cadets together, when I first joined the army and you came to my passing out parade and everything. I was really keen on becoming a soldier. But in my mind, when I joined the Blues and Royals Regiment, the Household Cavalry and the Guards, I thought, there was the what do you call, like the main body of the military, the main army, who I thought were a bit chippy and probably weren't professional. But then I figured, well, I thought the guards would be professional, and not only professional, I thought they would have morals, Christian morals, because of the Queen being the defender of the faith, etc. I thought the Blues and Royals would have morals in defending Parliament because of their history with Cromwell. You know, I really looked into the history of the regiments, and I chose the regiment that I thought was the most noble and that had the most value and would be the most ethical and have the most integrity. And what I found was that, you know, nobody respected the Magna Carta, nobody respected Parliament really in the regiments. They you know, it was all, they were just bastards, most of them, and the history of the regiment wasn't respected. The officers were lower quality because they had changed the system. The whole, there was literally zero faith. None of them understood the Christian foundations of England. They were just whoring constantly and drinking constantly and fucking around all the time. They spoke like absolute bastards, and I was very demoralized in the army. I just felt like I had joined this barbaric heathen military, and they were fighting against the Islamists, and they were saying, you know, the Islamists are infidels. But I was looking around thinking, you know, all these soldiers are infidels also, so what the fuck's the point of fighting against Islam? But anyways, the worst thing is they said to me, you know, you don't marry your wife when you join the army, you marry the army. And I said, no, that's not the case. You know, I can get married with my wife and I can work in the army at the same time. And they all said, oh, wait and see. You can't be with a wife in the army. You know, you marry the army or you marry your wife. You don't get both. And it was true, because they just make life so awkward and difficult for any kind of faith and relationships. And it demoralized me, and it fucked up my whole relationship with Sophie, and I was just really unhappy, and that's why I came out of the army. But anyways, the reason I'm saying that is when they told me to go and do the sailing with this army organization, I was a bit doubtful, but I didn't have a choice, and I went and did it. Oh yeah, my washing's in the laundry. I've got like another half an hour maybe, so I'll make this as fast as possible. So I went to this sailing organization, and it was all like Marines and guys with post-traumatic stress and other things, and they were all like talking like in this army, and I kind of got like flashbacks to when I was young and when I was in the army, and I hated it. And I was thinking, oh, I just want to do the sailing and just get the qualification and leave and go and just get on with my life. But the instructors there, I think they liked me actually, but they said, you know, you can't just do it and rush off. You got to stay here, and they delayed it, and then they were saying, you know, you should smoke, you should drink, you should come fuck women with us and whatever. And I was just getting depressed, and I didn't enjoy the course, and it reminded me how much I disliked the British military culture. Although I love the professionalism of the British Army, I think, you know, all the infidelity and the antichrist bullshit just really pisses me off, and I just wasn't happy. So the sailing thing, I met you when I was doing the sailing, and I sailed down to Falmouth. But at that time I was stressed out of my mind. I think you may have noticed I was, you know, maybe seeming a bit fucking like a schizo dog or whatever. But anyways, afterwards, I went to South Africa, and I settled with some Afrikaans friends, and they said to me, you know, the best thing to do if you're unhappy is to get a Bible. And they've been saying this to me for a long time. I had a friend, Esty Janssen van Rensburg in Cape Town, who, you know, read the Bible with me a lot and whatever. And anyways, she and my other Afrikaans friends said, you know, what you really need to do is return to faithfulness, and, you know, find the woman that you think is your love, which is Sophie, which is like the woman you married when you were younger according to Christian faith, and, you know, just make amends and read the Bible with her, and just sort all the shit out and just get on with your life. Don't do all the drinking and the other shit advice that the British give you. Just do like good Christian stuff. And that's what the Afrikaans people told me when I was in South Africa. So anyways, I went to Greece to look for sailing work, and Greece and most of the Mediterranean, actually, like all the brunette kind of nations in the Mediterranean and Europe are being absolutely fucked over by, I don't know, the sort of northern Scandinavian blue-blooded peoples. But it's like this awkward dynamic where it's one Europe, but the north is rich and the people are, you know, not getting as fucked over as the south, who's poor and who's getting fucked over by everyone in the prostitution and the pornography and blah blah blah. But anyways, I went to Greece and everyone was miserable. You know, there were no jobs, everyone was destitute, the women were all being like fucked around and escorting and prostituting themselves and whatever. The men were all unhappy, and the guys I made friends with, I made really good friends with this guy who owned the computer shop. He was about our age, and he was really struggling. He was like living in his shop, he was like sleeping on the floor, and I was like helping him, and he was giving me help with my computer. And I just realized, you know, Greece is not a good place to settle down and start a foundation for getting back on my feet. And anyways, I was in an internet cafe and my jacket got stolen and it had my debit card, and long story short, I got fucked around by the banks and I had to come back to the UK, and I went back to London, which I didn't want to do, and I had a bit of a like nervous breakdown, I think, from all the stress, and I tried to contact Sophie, and that was a mistake. And then I in trying to contact Sophie, you know, in my mind I was thinking, if I can just talk to her about the Bible, maybe she'll like forgive me and I can just get on with things with her. But you know, it's a bit far-fetched in hindsight. But anyways, trying to contact Sophie, I realized her sister was literally like 5 minutes up the road working from where I was lodging in Angel. So I went to talk with her and I saw her at her work, and I didn't approach her. I was a bit afraid. I didn't know what to say. And then, you know, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking, but I just panicked and I pulled out an imitation firearm, and I came up with this whole weird, wild plan about how to get forward with things. And the plan was, anyways, I'll just tell you what I did. I won't tell you what I planned. I pulled the imitation firearm out, and I frightened Isabel. I didn't point the weapon at her. I just cocked the weapon, and she panicked and she screamed and she ran away. And then I approached her and I said, please just come with me. I'm not gonna shoot you. I need to talk with you. And in my head I was thinking, you know, if I frighten her with a gun, she'll panic and she'll become like placid or complacent or whatever the word is. And then I can take her to the church and I can just say everything without trying to like rush it in 5 seconds or a minute talking to her on the street. So that was my plan. Instead of like approaching Isabel, who's Sophie's sister, and saying, oh, I need to talk to Sophie, and I want to talk to her about the Bible, and Isabel being like, I've got to go to work, fuck off, leave me alone. I thought I would take the weapon, frighten her so that she would be like quiet, and then I would say, fucking come with me, and then I would force her to listen to me. And then, yeah, stupid plan, really dumb plan. All that happened is she got shit scared, and then I was like, oh shit, this is a bad plan. And then I walked away, and then I ended up at St. Paul's Cathedral, and I was sitting in St. Paul's Cathedral, and I was thinking, that plan was fucking stupid. I shouldn't have done that. And then I was thinking the police are probably looking for me, and then I thought, you know what, fuck the church. I was sitting in the catacombs of St. Paul's Cathedral, and there were like shops everywhere, and they were like selling souvenirs and blah blah blah. And I got angry, and I thought, you know what, the fucking church isn't helping me. What they're doing instead is selling bullshit in the catacombs, and it's like a tourist destination, it's not a church. And I got angry, and I thought, you know, in the Bible, Jesus like threw all the shopkeepers out of the temple, and yet here we are like 2,000 years later, and the church is completely fucked. Everyone's not being faithful and they're selling shit in the church. And I got angry and I pulled out the imitation firearm and I pointed it at the shopkeeper. And yeah, I got arrested. The police came and arrested me. And I think I was like halfway in a nervous breakdown or something, but I started talking about like nuclear bombs and saying, you know, fucking there's nuclear bombs in Edinburgh and London and blah blah blah. And anyways, because I was saying that, they put me in a mental health hospital, which is fine. But first I had to go to Wandsworth prison, where I spent like 8 months in prison waiting for the court trial. And I spent it with the Canadian guy called David, who was very nice, same age as me. Him and I just sat and read books and played chess in Wandsworth prison. It was actually not a bad prison. I mean, the prison itself was disgusting, but the person I was with, David from Canada, was really a pleasant person. And then I went to the mental health hospital and I had to speak to doctors and psychiatrists and whatever. And at that time, I don't know what happened, but after pointing the weapon, the imitation firearm at the shopkeeper in St. Paul's Cathedral, about a week, maybe a week and a half, yeah, about 7-8 days later, Notre Dame Cathedral caught on fire, and at the same time, the Al-Aqsa Mosque caught on fire. And I was thinking to myself, you know, that's not a coincidence. But anyways, I'll get back to that later. When I went to the mental health hospital, I had to talk to this woman called Kirsty Butcher. She was a psychiatrist or psychologist or something. I think she was a psychologist, and she specialized in harassment and stalking behaviors. And the whole time I was saying to her, I'm not a fucking stalker. I never stalked anybody. I didn't follow Sophie around. I didn't peek through the fucking windows. I didn't watch her on the internet for fucking days and weeks and months. I literally contacted her about, I don't know, like once every 4 years on the internet to say, you know, are you ready to talk again? And that was about it. And then obviously the thing with her sister with the gun, yeah, fair enough. That was a bit fucking hectic. But I talked to Kirsty Butcher and she said all this stuff about the reptilian brain and instinct and psychology, and I was the whole time arguing with her, not really arguing, more debating with her, saying I understand all her psychology stuff and input is relevant, however, to me it's more faith-based. I'm not an antichrist, I'm not an infidel, I'm not a kafir. I think of myself as a Christian, and in the Christian Bible it states, you know, a man and a woman, they join, they become one in virginity, and then they're married, and they don't divorce, and that's Christian faith, that's dogma of the Christian church. They may have changed it in the like 60s or whatever, but just because they changed it in the 60s doesn't mean I'm gonna change my faith, which has existed for about 2,000 years. I'm not gonna just give it all away because they changed the dogma in the 60s, you know. So I said to her, I think of Sophie as my wife in Christian faith, and she was saying, yeah, but you don't have the right to speak with her. And I was saying it's not the government's position to interfere in the church and faith. It's not the government's right to separate a man and a woman and to say that they can never reconcile and have forgiveness. And they said, yeah, well, Sophie doesn't want to talk with you. And I said, well, fair enough, I understand that, but how can I approach the church and get people to approach her, and so that we can reconcile and discuss faith from when we first separated when we were like 20 or whatever? If there had been proper faith and church around us when we first argued and separated after the termination of the babies, then we would have, you know, in my mind the whole time, all the loss of the babies, the separation, the police not allowing us to talk to each other, that was all just evidence to me that I'm living in a fucked up state that's got no faith, that's against Christians. And the whole time I've been arguing, I just want Christian faith. I want to be a Christian. I am a Christian, and I don't feel at all, I don't understand at all that they can separate me and Sophie and say fuck off, you're never talking to her ever again. I think that's wrong, and I think I should have been given reconciliation with her and advocacy with her, and we should have been guarded and guided as Christians in our youth. But anyways, after all of that, I was released, and I went to Southampton, and I stayed in Southampton on some sort of section. And then I got bored, and I just went to South Africa, and I spoke to my mom, and she's not in a good state, but I tried to help her, and I spoke to my family. They're all getting destitute because of the reverse racism in South Africa, and blah blah blah. And anyways, long story short, South Africa has no opportunities, and so I then flew to Montpellier in France, where I went to the church. There was like no hospitality in France. There's like no affordable accommodation. There's no backpackers, nothing to kind of land on your feet and then find your way. So I had about £3,000 on me. I was spending about £400 a night because that was the cheapest hotels I could get. There was no hostels or whatever. And I got angry, and I ended up just going down south to Andorra, which is like this principality. And I went to Andorra, and it just was a nightmare. It's like a complete strategic nightmare. There's French and Spanish culture, and it's kind of mixed in this principality where there's some prince, I'm guessing. And they had like the main sort of decoy city, and then apart from the decoy city, once you can get through the decoy city and into the mountains, it's like these beautiful mountains with snow, and I was absolutely fucking freezing. But anyways, I eventually got through to like the nice, local area, and I spoke to the locals, and I got some advice, and there was a lot of good advice in that place. And although it was a fucking strategic nightmare, and I would never want to go back there, in any sort of force, I would I just managed to get out of there, and I went down south to Catalonia, and I went to Barcelona. And Barcelona, I learned, is like they've got this like bull fighting ethic or whatever. And the whole time I was in Barcelona and Catalonia, I just got the runaround. I was just given wrong directions. I was running around like a fucking idiot, like yeah. It was difficult, but I just went round and round in circles, and I just kept getting spurned by everybody. But I actually, in the process, learned a lot of very excellent points from the locals, and eventually, realizing that it was a complete dead end in Catalonia, I then flew to Rome, where I went to the Vatican. The reason I did that is because the churches in Montpellier and Andorra and Barcelona and Catalonia, they were all dead. All the people were unfaithful because of the situation with the economy and blah blah blah. And so I went to Rome, and I went to the confession booth in the Vatican, and I spoke with many of the priests there, and they were all just, I don't know, fucking idiots. They didn't understand anything about faith and religion. They were just theologians. They didn't really respect the faith or whatever. So I got frustrated, and I started talking to the Vatican guards, and I said to them, do you understand Mark chapter 10? And they said, no, what's Mark chapter 10? And I was like, how is it that you're a Vatican guard, you're in the Swiss Guard, and yet you don't know the principle, the ethic of Mark chapter 10, which is the most, like, known of all the dogmas of Christian faith? And they said, no, we don't know what it is. And I got angry, and I was like, you shouldn't be here, and you shouldn't be telling people to leave the church if you don't even know anything about the church. And they were polite at first, they were friendly at first, and the younger guys were friendly. The guys about our age were nice and friendly, and they said to me, it's not much we can do, you know. And then it got to closing time, and all the tourists started filing out, and they said, you know, you got to leave. And I said, I'm not leaving the church. I'm not getting pushed out of the church anymore. I'm staying here, and you're going to support me, and you're going to support me with my faith, and I'm not leaving until somebody in the church supports me. And I said, I've been all over the world looking for support. I've been to Israel. They threw me out of Israel. You know, I went to the Church of Nativity in Bethlehem. They gave me no support. I went to all these places, and now I'm in the Vatican, and I'm saying you will support me. And all the tourists were watching, and it got dark, and I was arguing with the Vatican guards. And then eventually they said, okay, everyone fuck off out the church. And then they dragged me into the guards room. I thought they were going to throw me off a bridge at one point, but they dragged me into the guards room, and this one pig, older guy with like a real kind of bastard attitude, he had these like leather gloves on his hands, and he just grabbed me, and he like they had me all pinned down, and he was just smashing my head against the wall, and I think he broke my jaw. Actually, it was like all cracked for weeks. But anyways, yeah, then they took photos, and they gave me this really weird water that I think was, yeah, anyways, and then I went to the Italian police station, and they said, listen, you know, you trespassed, and we're just going to release you. And so they put me on the streets, and at that point I was kind of broke, and I had very little money. I had about 600 quid left, and maybe a bit more. And I thought, you know, fuck the church, fuck all the antichrists, they're all fucking retarded. And I just came down to Gibraltar because it's winter now. It's like whatever, middle of winter, maybe coming to the middle of winter, and it's really cold in England. Oh, actually no, sorry. First I flew to London, and I went up to Hertfordshire, and yeah, there was just some crazy shit happening there. I won't talk about it, but I got scared, and I decided, you know, living in England is not a good idea, and so I came down to Gibraltar because it's British. They speak English, at least kind of sometimes, and I figured I could get at least, you know, some warmth in the middle of winter. But it turns out Gibraltar's just full of rich swine, and you know, there's literally nowhere for the poor. The middle class is kind of struggling. The working class has been, I don't know, suppressed in Gibraltar, and everybody in the working class is kind of just not there. And all the people in La Linea, they cross over the border, and they go, and it's kind of like an apartheid system. It's weird, but yeah, I don't actually like Gibraltar. The only thing is, there's one very good church in Gibraltar that I respect. But other than that, Gibraltar's like a shopping center, quasi, I don't know, like military base, but it's inhospitable to anybody with no money. So, you know, I came to La Linea, which is this town here, which is cheaper, and it's much nicer, and the food is good, and the people are nice, as long as you can speak Spanish, which I don't. So I'm kind of having to use the phone the whole time. But anyways, I'm tired, Emma. I'm fucking tired. I don't know what the fuck I can do anymore. There's nothing I can do anymore. There's no jobs. I've been blacklisted or whatever the fuck is going on. I just have been incapable of getting a job. Maybe I'm just too intense. I think maybe my personality is, you know, I'm always like too laid back and just taking things as they are and joking around, which pisses people off. Or I'm, you know, like really trying to do stuff professionally, and I'm like really intense, and that pisses them off also. So it's like whatever I do, I just piss everyone off. And I don't have like friends or family anymore. I've kind of burnt all those bridges because I've been poor for a long time and frustrated for a long time. And also, I think the biggest issue I have is my fucked up dyslexic tongue. It's like I try to say things, but I always get the context wrong, and it ends up confusing the shit out of everybody. But when I write perfectly because I can think before I, you you know, and if I make a mistake, I can just you know, like I can fix the context. But when I'm speaking and I'm saying I need to do and I have to do and blah blah blah, it just fucking confuses me and confuses the shit out of everybody else. But anyways, I'm tired, Emma. I'm fucking tired. Yeah, that's what happened, I guess. You know, you said to me last time we spoke, or one of the few times we spoke before, like that I don't tell you anything that's happening. Motherfucker, we still be friends, but you know, I'm never really being honest with you. And it's not that I'm not being honest; it's just that I'm confused half the time and I'm stressed most of the time, and I've got no friends that understand what the fuck is happening, and it's confusing. And my family are fucking retarded. They're nice people at heart, but you know, my family, they divorced when I was a kid. My brother's a fucking know-it-all bastard and whatever, but he's actually stupid, and I'm just sick of shit. I'm sick of all this shit. I just wish I would die, and it's frustrating because the methods to die are all shit. They're gonna hurt. That's the only thing that stopped me doing it, is the you know, that pain of death. But at the moment I'm here. I've got this fucking bag with all this shit in it that I don't really want. I got like food, a little bit of food. I got well, I have which is nice in a way, because it's like I know there's no like stress now. The stress is gone. Like I'm not thinking, shit, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna do that? I'm just thinking like, I've got 10 quid. Should I buy alcohol and get fucking pissed and hang myself, or should I have like something to eat and then hang myself? It's like there's no choice, there's no opportunities, there's nothing. So there's no stress, you know, and that's kind of liberating. At the same time, though, it's shit because I'm thinking, you know, I'm only 33. Oh shit, my washing's probably finished. I better go. Good luck, Emma. I hope they don't nuke everybody, and I hope, you know, the food security and all the, you know, the capitalism and stuff doesn't destroy the planet. But you know, I just hope your children and your family are safe and happy in the future, and that you actually have a future ahead of you. You know, God bless you. And I know I'm talking about Christian stuff a lot, and you're probably not into that as much as me. You know, I hope it doesn't make you feel, you know, awkward or whatever, but I am a Christian. It's just what I am. And I hate all this shit. I hate it. All this shit. The money, the fucking politics, the news, everyone ignoring each other, and just, I fucking hate it. And the worst thing of all is I really loved you, and I really loved my friends, and I really loved, you know, I loved Sophie. I thought she was important, and I lost her, and I didn't see my children, and it's shit. But anyways, I'm off. Bye. I need to go. Yeah, I'll try that washing, and then I'll change out of this fucking shit clothes I'm wearing and probably throw it away, and then I'll have my change of clothes, and then there's a bridge in Gibraltar. I'm gonna jump off of that. Goodbye, Emma. See you. Good luck.